The Great Hall of Station Prime buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in curved rows, their scales, fur, and strange skin colors creating a rainbow of life forms. But today, that rainbow felt more like storm, clouds gathering before lightning struck. Ambassador Marcus Reed sat alone in the human section. His gray suit looked plain next to the fancy robes and armor worn by other delegates. At 50 years old, Marcus had spent half his life trying to build peace between humans and aliens. Today he feared all that work was about to crumble. The Veltar delegate stood at the center podium. General Vex was 8 feet tall with blue-black skin and 4 arms. His voice boomed across the hall like thunder. "The humans lie," he declared, waving a datapad in one of his massive hands. "These so-called evidence files are fake. We would never harm innocent beings." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The evidence was not fake. 3 days ago, human scouts had found Colony 7 on the edge of space. What they discovered there still made him sick to think about. Hundreds of human families, men, women, children, working in alien mines with chains around their necks. The Veltar had been taking humans as slaves for months. "The evidence speaks for itself," Marcus said, standing up. His voice was calm but carried clearly through the hall. "We have video, recordings, medical scans, witness statements from the rescued colonists. Your people have been enslaving human families." General Vex's 4 eyes narrowed. "Even if this were true, which it is not, humans are a violent species. You spread across space like a disease. Perhaps some control is needed to protect civilized worlds." A low murmur ran through the hall. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Marcus felt cold anger building in his chest. These beings had sat in meetings with him for years, sharing meals and making jokes. Now they talked about controlling his people like dangerous animals. The Torani representative, a bird-like creature with golden feathers, fluttered her wings nervously. "Perhaps we should investigate these claims more carefully," she chirped. "There may be misunderstandings on both sides." "There is no misunderstanding," Marcus replied. He activated his own datapad and holographic images filled the air above the center of the hall. The images showed human children with hollow eyes and alien collars around their necks, women with whip marks on their backs, men who looked like walking skeletons. Several aliens looked away from the images. Others seemed bored, as if watching a weather report. The Veltar delegation laughed. "You see," General Vex said with amusement, "the humans become emotional over such small matters. This is exactly why stronger species must guide them." Marcus felt something break inside his chest. For 25 years he had believed in diplomacy. He had believed that different species could work together, learn from each other, build something better than war. But looking at these aliens now, some laughing at human suffering, others treating it like paperwork, he realized how naive he had been. "Small matters?" Marcus repeated quietly. Then his voice grew stronger. "General Vex, you just called the enslavement of human families a small matter." "Of course," the Veltar replied. "What are a few hundred primitives compared to galactic stability?" The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Around the hall, he saw other aliens nodding or looking, uncomfortable but saying nothing. These beings who called themselves civilized were willing to ignore slavery because it was convenient. Marcus walked to the center podium. His footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet hall. When he spoke, his voice was steady and cold. "On behalf of the human government, I make this statement to the Galactic Council. The Veltar Empire has committed acts of war against human colonies. They have enslaved our people and treated them like animals." General Vex laughed again. "And what will the weak humans do about it? File more complaints? Hold more meetings?" Marcus looked directly into the alien's 4 eyes. "We demand the immediate return of all human prisoners. You have 72 hours to comply." "Or what?" another Veltar delegate asked, joining in the laughter. "Or there will be consequences," Marcus said simply. The laughter in the hall grew louder. Even some of the neutral species chuckled at what they saw as an empty threat. Humans were known as traders and explorers, not warriors. Their military was small compared to the great alien empires. What could they possibly do? But Marcus did not laugh. He had grown up on Earth where humans remembered their history. He knew what his species was capable of when pushed too far. The aliens around him had lived in peace for so long they had forgotten what real war looked like. The Torani representative stood up, her golden feathers ruffled with worry. Ambassador Reed, surely we can find a peaceful solution. Violence serves no one. Marcus turned to her with sad eyes. I have spent my entire adult life seeking peaceful solutions, Ambassador Kayla. But peace only works when all sides want it. He gestured toward the Veltar delegation. These beings just called human slavery a small matter. They laugh at our pain. There can be no peace with those who see us as animals to be controlled. 3 more neutral delegations stood up and walked out of the hall. They wanted no part of what was coming. Marcus watched them go without emotion. At least they had the honesty to leave rather than pretend they cared. General Vex stood tall and proud at his podium. The Veltar Empire does not bow to threats from inferior species. We will do as we please with the humans in our territory. If Earth wants war, we will crush them like insects. Marcus nodded slowly. Then you have chosen your path, General. He gathered his papers and data pads. When this session ends, I will transmit your response to Earth Command. The 72-hour deadline stands. As Marcus walked toward the exit, General Vex called after him. Tell your leaders not to do anything foolish, human. The galaxy has seen your little ships and small armies. You are not warriors. You are merchants and farmers playing at being soldiers. Marcus stopped at the door and looked back one final time. The hall was filled with aliens who thought they knew everything about humans. They had watched human traders and diplomats for decades. They had seen human colonies that focused on farming and mining. They thought this was all humanity had to offer. They were about to learn how wrong they were. General Vex, Marcus said, quietly, you have made one critical error in your calculations. And what is that, little human? Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You have never seen humans fight for their families. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss, leaving the aliens to their laughter and their ignorance. In 72 hours, the laughter would stop. The galaxy was about to remember why humans were the only species to completely dominate their homeworld. Admiral Kate Cross stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance, staring at the message that had just arrived from Earth Command. The words glowed on her personal screen in red letters. Protocol 7 authorized. Execute immediately. Kate had served in the Human Defense Fleet for 30 years. She had fought pirates and rescued colonists. She had negotiated with alien traders and explored unknown systems. But in all those years, she had prayed she would never see these words. Protocol 7 meant total war. No limits. No mercy. No prisoners until every human slave was freed. Captain Blake, she said into her communication device, report to my ready room immediately. 2 minutes later, Captain Tom Blake entered her private office. He was a young man with sharp eyes and steady hands. His destroyer Warhawk was known throughout the fleet for its speed and firepower. Kate had chosen him carefully for what was coming. Admiral, Tom said, saluting. I saw the fleet-wide alert. Are we really doing this? Kate activated her wall screen. It showed a map of human space and the surrounding alien territories. Red dots marked known Veltar positions. Blue dots showed human colonies. Some of the blue dots were flashing. Those were the ones under alien control. The Veltar have had 60 hours to return our people, Kate said quietly. Instead, they sent us this. She played an audio message. General Vex's voice filled the room, full of laughter and contempt. Stupid humans. We will take more of your colonies if you continue to make threats. Your people make excellent workers when properly trained. Perhaps we will expand our collection. Tom's face went hard. They're treating our families like farm animals. Worse, Kate replied. Farm animals are valuable. They see humans as disposable tools. She turned to face him directly. Tom, I'm giving you command of Strike Force Alpha. 12 destroyers, 4 cruisers and the carrier Eagle's Nest. Your target is Kepler Station. Tom nodded. Kepler Station was a major Veltar military base only 3 light-years from human space. It controlled shipping routes to 6 star systems. Orders, Admiral? Destroy everything. Leave nothing that can threaten human lives. Kate's voice was calm, but her eyes were cold as space itself. The galaxy thinks we're peaceful traders who accidentally learned to build spaceships. Today we remind them what we really are. While Admiral Cross briefed her captains, Dr. Lisa Park worked in her laboratory deep inside Earth's military research station. She had spent 15 years developing weapons that she hoped would never be used. Today, she was releasing all of them. Computer, activate all Omega project files, she said to the artificial intelligence that controlled her lab. Authorization, Park 77 Charlie. Confirmed, Dr. Park. All restricted weapon systems are now available for immediate production. Lisa looked at the list that appeared on her screen. Kinetic bombardment systems that could crack planets. Electronic warfare programs that could shut down entire fleets. Biological agents designed specifically for alien physiology. And her personal favorite, nanomachines that could eat through alien armor like acid through paper. For years, other human scientists had called her paranoid for developing such terrible weapons. They said humans would never need such things in a civilized galaxy. Lisa had always replied that civilization was just a thin layer over the beast underneath. Today, the beasts were showing their teeth. Begin immediate production of all systems, she ordered. Priority Alpha authorization. 3 hours later, Captain Tom Blake led Strike Force Alpha out of human space. His 19 ships moved in perfect formation, their engines burning bright blue against the darkness. Behind them, more fleets were forming. Admiral Cross was assembling the largest human military force in history. Tom sat in his captain's chair, watching the stars stream past on his main screen. His crew worked quietly around him, checking weapons and preparing for battle. They all knew what they were going to do. The Veltar at Kepler Station had no idea what was coming. Captain, his communications officer said, "We're receiving a message from Kepler Station. They're demanding to know our intentions." Tom smiled without humor. "Open a channel." The main screen flickered, showing a Veltar commander with the usual 4 arms and blue-black skin. The alien looked annoyed but not worried. "Human ships, you are entering Veltar space without permission. Turn back immediately or face the consequences." "Commander," Tom replied politely. "This is Captain Blake of the Human Defense Fleet. We're here to collect our people." The Veltar laughed. "Your people belong to us now, human. They are learning proper discipline in our work facilities. If you turn back now, we might let you visit them once a year." Tom's smile disappeared. "Commander, you have 30 seconds to surrender the station and release all human prisoners. After that, we will take them by force." "With 19 little ships?" The alien was still laughing. "We have 40 warships protecting the station, human. Your toys cannot threaten us." Tom looked at his tactical officer and nodded. 30 seconds are up, Commander. You chose your fate." The screen went dark. Around Tom's ship, 18 other human vessels suddenly spread out into attack formation. They moved like dancers, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. The Veltar fleet scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. Tom had studied alien military tactics for years. Most species fought like boxers, standing face to face and trading heavy blows until one side fell down. Humans fought like wolves, circling, striking, disappearing, striking again from a different angle. "All ships, weapons free," Tom ordered. "Remember, no prisoners until our people are safe." The human ships struck like lightning. Their weapons had been designed by Dr. Park's team specifically to penetrate alien shields and armor. Veltar ships that had seemed mighty and strong began exploding like firecrackers. The alien commander who had laughed at Tom managed to send one desperate message before his flagship died. "All Veltar forces, emergency alert. The humans are not what they seem. They fight like demons. Request immediate reinforcements." But it was too late for Kepler Station. In 20 minutes, 40 alien warships became space debris. The humans had lost exactly 0 ships. Tom's boarding. Teams found 67 human prisoners in the station's lower levels. They were thin and scared, with alien slave collars around their necks. When the human soldiers cut off those collars, many of the freed people cried with relief. As Tom watched his people being carried to safety, he received a message from Admiral Cross. Her face appeared on his screen, and she was smiling for the first time in days. "Well done, Captain. How are our people?" "Alive, Admiral. Hurt, but alive. The medical teams are treating them now." "Good, because you're not done yet. I'm sending you coordinates for 3 more Veltar bases. The galaxy wanted to see what humans do when pushed too far." Her smile became cold and sharp. "Let's show them," Tom saluted. "Yes, Admiral. What about prisoners from the alien crews?" Admiral Cross was quiet for a moment. "Captain, how many human children did you find in those cells?" Tom's face went hard. 12, Admiral. The youngest was only 6 years old." "Then you have your answer about prisoners, Captain. Cross out." The screen went dark and Tom turned back to his crew. "Set course for the next target. We have more of our people to bring home." Behind them, Kepler Station burned in the darkness of space. Across the galaxy, the Veltar were about to learn that humans were not the peaceful merchants they had believed. They were predators who had simply been pretending to be prey. The war had begun. Commander Rick Stone crouched behind a broken wall on Colony 7, listening to the sounds of battle echoing through the mining complex. His ground assault team had landed 2 hours ago to liberate the human prisoners the Veltar had been holding. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. The aliens had not just enslaved the colonists, they had been experimenting on them, testing how much work humans could do before they collapsed, how little food they needed to stay alive, how to break their spirits completely. Rick had seen war before, but nothing like this. In one building, they found human children who had been separated from their parents and forced to work in radioactive mines. In another, they discovered women who had been used as test subjects for alien diseases. The site had made even his hardest soldiers sick with rage. "Commander," his Sergeant Mike Davis spoke quietly into his radio. "We've secured Building 12, found 18 more of our people. They're in bad shape, but they're alive." Rick nodded grimly. "Good work. How many does that make total?" 237 so far, sir. But we're still searching the lower levels." Through his binoculars, Rick watched a group of Veltar soldiers setting up defensive positions around the main administrative building. They had taken human prisoners up there and were using them as shields. The aliens thought this would stop the human assault. They were wrong. Rick activated his communication device. "Strike Team Beta, this is Stone. Do you have a clear shot on the admin building?" "Affirmative, Commander," came the reply from his sniper team. "But there are human hostages in there. The aliens are holding them in front of the windows." Rick's jaw tightened. The Veltar were counting on human compassion to protect them. They assumed humans would not risk their own people's lives to win a battle. It was another mistake in a long list of mistakes the aliens had made about human nature. Beta team, switch to Dr. Park's new sleep gas rounds. Put everyone in that building to sleep. Aliens and humans both. Medical teams are standing by to treat our people. "Roger that, Commander. Engaging now." Rick watched as his snipers fired special projectiles into the building's air system. Within minutes, every living thing inside would be unconscious. The humans could be treated and revived easily. The aliens would sleep much longer, if they woke up at all. While his teams worked to clear the remaining buildings, Rick received an urgent message from Admiral Cross. Her face appeared on his portable screen and she looked troubled. "Commander Stone, we have a problem. The Veltar are sending a message to all species in the galaxy. They're claiming humans are monsters who kill prisoners and destroy civilian targets." Rick felt disgusted. "Admiral, these aliens have been torturing our families for months. Now they want sympathy?" "I know, Commander. But some neutral species are starting to listen. The Veltar are painting themselves as victims of human aggression." Admiral Cross paused. "We need to change the narrative. I want you to capture some Veltar officers alive. Make them confess what they've been doing to human prisoners." Rick looked around at the mining complex. Everywhere he could see evidence of alien cruelty. Whipping posts where humans had been beaten, cages where children had been kept like animals, medical facilities where the aliens had conducted their sick experiments. Admiral, with respect, I don't think confessions will matter. The galaxy doesn't care about human suffering. They've made that clear. Then what do you suggest, Commander? Rick's voice became cold and hard. We show them what happens when you hurt our people. We make the cost so high that no alien ever thinks about enslaving humans again. Admiral Cross was quiet for a moment. What are you thinking, Rick? I want to broadcast everything we're finding here. Not just to government leaders, but to every human colony in space. Let our people see what the Veltar did to their neighbors. Let them understand what we're really fighting for. That could cause a panic, Commander. It might make humans across the galaxy demand revenge. Rick looked at a small playground where human children had once played. Now it was filled with alien mining equipment and guard towers. Good. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned that humans protect their families. All of them. Admiral Cross nodded slowly. Do it, Commander. Send everything to Earth Command. They'll distribute it through all human channels. 2 hours later, Rick's combat cameras had recorded everything they found on Colony 7. The images were brutal and heartbreaking. Human families torn apart. Children forced to work until they collapsed. Adults beaten for asking for water. Medical experiments that had left permanent scars on their victims. But the most powerful part of the broadcast was the interviews with the rescued colonists. A woman named Mary told how the aliens had taken her baby and used it to make her work harder. An old man named Joe described watching his grandson die from overwork while the Veltar laughed. A teenager named David showed the scars where aliens had tested their weapons on human skin. Within hours, the broadcast reached every human settlement in space. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Peaceful farming colonies began requesting weapons shipments. Trading stations started organizing volunteer fighter squadrons. Even human diplomats in alien capitals began sending angry messages home, demanding to join the fight. On Earth, millions of people who had never thought about military service suddenly volunteered for the fleet. Factories that had been making civilian goods switched to producing weapons and armor. Dr. Park's research stations received unlimited funding and resources. The galaxy had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for generations. The protective fury that had once driven humans to hunt dangerous predators to extinction was now focused on the aliens who had dared to harm human families. General Vex, commanding the Veltar forces from his flagship, watched the human broadcasts with growing alarm. These were not the calm, reasonable humans he had been fighting. These were the descendants of Earth's apex predators, and they were angry. Admiral, his communication officer reported, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 of our outer colonies. They say the humans are offering to spare them if they release all human prisoners immediately. Cowards, General Vex roared. Order all colonies to fight to the death. We cannot show weakness to these animals. But it was too late. Across Veltar space, local commanders were looking at the growing human fleet and making their own decisions. Some were already releasing human prisoners and broadcasting their surrender offers. Others were abandoning their posts and fleeing toward the galactic core. The Veltar Empire, which had seemed so strong and confident just days ago, was beginning to crack like ice in the spring sun. Back on Colony 7, Commander Stone watched his medics loading the last of the rescued humans onto transport ships. Many would need months of treatment to recover from what the aliens had done to them. Some might never fully heal, but they were alive and they were free. And across the galaxy, every alien species was learning a lesson that Earth's history had taught many times before. Humans were the most dangerous predators in the universe when their families were threatened. As Rick's transport lifted off from the scarred surface of Colony 7, he looked down at the mining complex one last time. His teams had left it burning. Nothing would grow there for years. Good. Let it serve as a warning to anyone else who thought humans were easy prey. The storm was just beginning. Ambassador Kayla of the Tirani Republic sat in her private office on Station Prime, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. Her golden feathers were ruffled with worry as she studied the reports streaming in from every sector. The war between humans and the Veltar was spreading faster than anyone had expected. 3 days ago, she had walked out of the Galactic Council session rather than watch the diplomatic breakdown. Now she wished she had stayed to see the warning signs. The humans had not been making empty threats. They had been giving the galaxy one last chance to do the right thing. Ma'am, her aide, a young Tirani named Pip, entered the office with a datapad. The latest intelligence reports from our operatives. Kayla took the pad and read quickly. What she saw made her stomach feel cold. Human fleets were moving through space like hunting packs, destroying Veltar bases with surgical precision. But it was not just their military success that worried her. It was how they fought. Other species fought wars to gain territory or resources. They would capture enemy positions and hold them. They would take prisoners to exchange later. They followed the ancient rules of civilized warfare that had kept galactic conflicts limited for thousands of years. Humans were ignoring all those rules. They did not want Veltar territory. They destroyed every base they captured and moved on to the next target. They did not take prisoners for exchange. Any Veltar soldier who had been involved in harming humans simply disappeared. They were not trying to negotiate better terms or force a favorable peace treaty. They wanted the complete destruction of everyone who had hurt their people. Ambassador, Pip said nervously, there's something else. We've been monitoring communications between neutral species. Many are starting to reconsider their position. Kayla was not surprised. She had been in politics long enough to recognize which way the wind was blowing. Show me. The wall screen activated, showing a map of the galaxy. Neutral species were marked in yellow, but many of those yellow dots were starting to turn blue, indicating they were moving toward alliance with humanity. The Keth Coalition announced this morning that they are offering intelligence support to human forces, Pip reported. The Wanderer tribes have declared that any Veltar ship entering their space will be destroyed. Even the Crystal Builders are considering breaking their 1,000-year isolation to support humanity. Kayla nodded grimly. And what about species that might support the Veltar? Pip's feathers drooped. The Hive Masters recalled their ambassador yesterday. The Stone Lords have closed their borders to everyone. The Shadow Fleet has gone completely silent. He paused. Ma'am, I think they're all afraid. Of course they are, Kayla replied. They're finally seeing what humans really are. For decades, the galaxy had watched humans spread through space as traders and explorers. They built farming colonies and mining stations. They were polite in diplomatic meetings and fair in business deals. They seemed like just another peaceful species that had learned to travel between stars. But Kayla was older than most ambassadors. She had studied human history during their first contact period. She knew that humans were the only known species to completely dominate their homeworld. Every other intelligent race shared their planet with other creatures. Humans had either tamed or eliminated every large predator on Earth. Now the galaxy was seeing why. Her communication system chimed with an incoming message. The caller ID showed it was from Admiral Cross of the human fleet. Kayla felt her heart rate increase. Why would the human military commander want to speak with her? Admiral Cross, she said as the screen activated. This is unexpected. The human woman on the screen looked tired but determined. Behind her, Kayla could see the bridge of a massive warship. Ambassador Kayla, I understand you walked out of the council session rather than watch the breakdown. Yes, Admiral. I felt uncomfortable with how the situation was being handled. Good. That means you still have honor. Admiral Cross leaned forward. I'm calling because we need to discuss the future of this region of space. Kala felt confused. I'm not sure I understand. The Veltar Empire is collapsing. Their outer territories are surrendering to avoid destruction. Their core worlds are preparing for siege. Within a month, they will no longer exist as a political entity. Admiral Cross's voice was matter-of-fact, as if she were discussing the weather. The question is what happens next. And you're asking the Torani Republic? I'm asking you personally, Ambassador. Your people have a choice to make. You can continue to pretend that humans are just another species that can be managed and controlled. Or you can accept the new reality and work with us to build something better. Kayla looked at her aide, who was listening with wide eyes. What kind of something better? A galaxy where species like the Veltar cannot enslave families and call it a small matter. Where strength is used to protect the innocent, not exploit them. Where diplomatic agreements actually mean something because everyone knows there are consequences for breaking them. The human admiral paused and her expression softened slightly. Ambassador, your people are not our enemies. We know the Torani have never participated in slavery or genocide. We're offering you the chance to help us create a safer galaxy for everyone. Kayla felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This was one of those moments that would be remembered for generations. And if we refuse? Then you'll be left alone as long as you don't interfere with human operations. But you'll also be on your own when the next species like the Veltar decides your people might make good slaves. After Admiral Cross ended the call, Kyla sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, she turned to Pip. Send a message to the Republic Council. Tell them I recommend full alliance with humanity. Ma'am, are you sure? Some of our leaders still think this war will end in negotiations. Kayla looked at the tactical displays still showing human fleet movements. Pip, in 3 days, humans have destroyed 40 years of Veltar expansion. They're not negotiating. They're exterminating a threat to their species. She stood up and walked to the window looking out at the stars. I've studied dozens of species throughout my career. I've never seen anything like this. What do you mean? Most species fight until they get tired, then they talk. Humans fight until the threat is completely eliminated. They don't stop because they're tired or because they've won enough territory. They stop when there's no one left who can hurt their families. Pip looked frightened. That sounds extreme. It sounds like evolution, young one. For millions of years, anything that threatened human families died. Now they've brought that instinct to the stars. Kayla turned back to her aide. The galaxy spent centuries thinking humans were soft because they were willing to trade and talk. We mistook patience for weakness. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening in government offices and military headquarters. Species that had ignored human warnings were suddenly paying attention. The Veltar Empire, which had seemed so powerful just a week ago, was crumbling as its own territories begged for human mercy. And in the depths of space, human fleets continued their methodical advance toward the Veltar homeworld. They moved with the patience of predators who knew their prey had nowhere left to run. The galaxy was learning that humans had not changed since leaving Earth. They were still the most dangerous predators in known space. They had simply been choosing not to hunt until someone made the mistake of threatening their families. Now the hunt had begun, and it would not end until every threat was eliminated. Captain Tom Blake stood on the bridge of his destroyer Warhawk, watching the last Veltar stronghold burn in the darkness of space. The massive fortress had taken 6 hours to crack, but human persistence and superior tactics had won the day. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the final stages of the battle. It had been 18 days since the war began. 18 days since General Vex had laughed at human threats and called their enslaved families a small matter. Now the Veltar Empire was gone, its fleets destroyed, its worlds either surrendered or abandoned. Captain, his communications officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the fortress. It's General Vex." Tom felt a cold satisfaction. The alien commander who had started this war was finally ready to talk. "Put him on screen." The main display flickered, showing the interior of what looked like a damaged command center. General Vex appeared, but he was very different from the proud, laughing creature who had mocked humanity 3 weeks ago. His blue-black skin was pale and scarred. His forearms shook as he held himself upright. Behind him, Tom could see smoke and sparks from damaged equipment. "Captain Blake," the alien said, his voice hoarse and defeated. I wish to discuss surrender terms." Tom looked at the creature who had enslaved human children and felt nothing but disgust. There are no terms, General. You chose this path when you decided our families were disposable. Please, Vex begged, his pride finally broken. My people, we were wrong. We will return all human prisoners. We will pay compensation. We will sign any treaty you want. All human prisoners have already been freed, General. We didn't wait for your permission. Tom's voice was as cold as the space around them. As for treaties, we've learned that your people don't honor agreements. You enslaved humans despite the peace accords we signed. General Vex's 4 eyes widened, with desperate hope. Then what do you want? Territory? Resources? We will give you anything. Tom was quiet for a moment, remembering the images from Colony 7, the children with slave collars, the families torn apart, the experiments performed on innocent people. What we want, General, is for threats like you to never exist again. I don't understand. You will. Tom turned to his weapons officer. Target the Fortress Command Center. Fire when ready. No. Wait, General Vex screamed. We surrender. You cannot kill prisoners of war. Tom looked back at the screen with eyes as hard as steel. General, you made it very clear that humans are not people in your opinion. We are just animals to be enslaved and experimented on. His voice became deadly quiet. Animals don't take prisoners of war. The screen went dark as the Warhawks' weapons found their target. The last stronghold of the Veltar Empire became nothing but glowing debris floating in space. 3 days later, Ambassador Marcus Reed walked into the rebuilt chambers of the Galactic Council on Station Prime. The hall looked the same as before, but everything else had changed. Where once dozens of species had sat in judgment of humanity, now only a handful remained. Many had fled to distant parts of the galaxy. Others had requested formal alliance with Earth. The remaining delegates watched nervously as Marcus took his seat. Gone was the patient diplomat who had spent years trying to build bridges between species. In his place sat a representative of the galaxy's new dominant power. Ambassador Kayla of the Torani Republic stood to address the chamber. Her golden feathers were perfectly groomed, and her voice was respectful. The Galactic Council recognizes Ambassador Reed of the human government. We wish to express our sorrow for the tragic misunderstanding that led to recent conflicts. Marcus looked around the chamber. 3 weeks ago, these same beings had laughed when he warned them about consequences. They had called human slavery a small matter. Now they wanted to pretend it was all a misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding, Ambassador Kayla, Marcus replied calmly. The Veltar enslaved human families, and this council ignored it. Some of you even supported it. Those are facts, not misunderstandings. A delegate from the Spiral Alliance, a slug-like creature with multiple eyes, raised one of his tentacles. Ambassador Reed, surely we can move past these unfortunate events. The Veltar have been dealt with. Perhaps we can return to the peaceful cooperation we once enjoyed. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Delegate Slurm, 3 weeks ago you voted to support Veltar territorial claims in human space. You called our resistance to slavery an act of aggression. Why should we trust your cooperation now? The slug creature's eyes darted nervously. We were misled by Veltar propaganda. We did not understand the true situation. You understood. Perfectly, Marcus replied. You simply didn't care because it wasn't your people being hurt. The chamber fell silent. Everyone present knew the truth of those words. For decades, the Galactic Council had ignored injustices as long as they didn't affect the major powers. They had allowed stronger species to exploit weaker ones as long as trade continued and their own territories remained safe. Now they faced a species that would not ignore injustice. A species that would cross the galaxy to protect a single human child from harm. A species that had just destroyed an entire empire rather than allow slavery to continue. Ambassador Kayla spoke again, her voice careful and respectful. Ambassador Reed, what does humanity want from the Galactic Council? Marcus stood up, and every alien in the chamber tensed. We want what we have always wanted, A galaxy where all species are treated with dignity, where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them, where diplomatic agreements actually mean something. And if some species refuse to accept this vision, Marcus looked directly at each remaining delegate. Then they will face the consequences of their choices. The galaxy has seen what happens when humans are pushed too far. I suggest you learn from the Veltar's mistake. A new delegate representing a species that had just joined the council raised her hand nervously. Ambassador Reed, how can we prove our commitment to these principles? By your actions, not your words, Marcus replied. Humanity will be watching. We have learned not to trust promises, but we will recognize genuine efforts to build a better galaxy. As the session ended, Marcus gathered his papers and prepared to leave. Ambassador Kayla approached him quietly. Marcus, may I ask you something personal? Of course. 3 weeks ago you seemed so sad when diplomacy failed. Now you seem different. Harder. Marcus looked at her with tired eyes. Kayla, I spent 25 years believing that reasonable beings could solve problems through discussion. Then I watched a room full of civilized delegates laugh at human suffering. He paused, remembering that terrible day. I learned that some problems can only be solved through strength. And now? Now humanity will provide that strength. We will protect not just our own people, but anyone who cannot protect themselves. And we will eliminate any threat to innocent lives, no matter how powerful that threat believes itself to be. As Marcus left the chamber, the remaining delegates sat in stunned silence. The galaxy had changed forever. The age of strong species exploiting weak ones was over. In its place came something new and frightening, a universe where one species had appointed itself the guardian of all others. Some would call it tyranny, others would call it justice, but everyone would call it the new reality. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, human fleets continued their patrols, watching for new threats and protecting the innocent. They had learned that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice backed by overwhelming force. The dangerous war was over. The dangerous peace had begun. And across the galaxy, in quiet corners where the strong had once preyed upon the weak, a new phrase was whispered with hope and fear. The humans are watching. For some, it was a promise of protection. For others, it was a warning of consequences. For humanity, it was simply the truth. The silence of deep space was broken by the steady hum of the Terra's Edge as it moved through the darkness between stars. Captain Maya Rodriguez sat in her command chair, watching the endless void through the main view screen. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she didn't mind. 3 months into humanity's first journey beyond their solar system, she had learned to find peace in the routine. Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors, called out Lieutenant Jake Miller from his station. His young face showed excitement mixed with concern. It's big. Really big. Maya set down her cup and leaned forward. Show me. The main screen flickered and changed to display a tactical readout. What appeared made Maya's breath catch in her throat. Massive shapes were moving toward them through space, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. How many? She asked quietly. 12 ships, Captain. The largest one is... Jake paused, checking his readings twice. 10 times our size. Around the bridge, the crew exchanged nervous glances. They were explorers, not soldiers. The Terra's Edge carried mining equipment, scientific instruments, and supplies for building research stations. It was not built for war. Are they responding to our signals? Maya asked Tom Martinez, her communications officer. Negative, Captain. But they're definitely scanning us. I'm picking up some kind of probe beam. Maya nodded slowly. This was the moment every human had wondered about since they first looked up at the stars. First contact with alien life. She had hoped it would be peaceful. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the ship's intercom. We are about to make contact with alien vessels. Everyone remain calm and stay at your stations. The alien ships moved closer, their sleek forms now visible on the screen. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like giant crystals that glowed, with shifting patterns of light. Maya watched the colors dance across their hulls and wondered what they meant. "Captain, they're hailing us," Tom said, his voice tight with tension. "Put them through." The screen changed again, showing the face of something that was definitely not human. The alien had pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face. When it spoke, the words came through a translator device, making its voice sound mechanical and cold. "I am Commander Thane of the Vex Empire," the alien said. "You will surrender your vessel immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Maya felt her crew tense behind her. She could hear someone's rapid breathing and the quiet tap of nervous fingers on control panels. These aliens had just threatened to destroy them without even asking who they were or what they wanted. She stood up slowly, straightening her uniform. "This is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the human vessel Terra's Edge. We are explorers on a peaceful mission. We have no intention of surrendering to anyone." Commander Thane's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You refuse our demand? Your ship is small and weak. You cannot fight us." Maya looked around at her crew. These were good people, scientists and engineers who had volunteered to travel farther from Earth than any human before them. They had families waiting for them at home, dreams of discovery and hopes for the future. None of them deserved to die in the cold vacuum of space. But Maya also knew something else about her crew. They were human. "Let me ask you something, Commander." "Thane," she said, walking closer to the view screen. "In all your years of conquest, how many species have asked you this question? Why don't you run, aliens?" The silence that followed was complete. Even the background hum of the ship's engine seemed to fade away. Commander Thane stared at her, with all 4 eyes, his blue skin shifting to a slightly darker shade. "What did you say?" he asked slowly. "I asked why you don't run," Maya repeated calmly. "You show up in our space, threaten us, and expect us to just give up. But here's the thing about humans, Commander. We don't give up, ever. So I'm asking you one more time. Why don't you run?" Behind her, Maya heard Chief Engineer Blake Thompson laugh quietly. It was not a happy sound. "Captain, should I start warming up the fusion drive?" "Not yet, Blake," Maya said, never taking her eyes off the alien commander. "Let's give our new friend here a chance to think about his options." Commander Thane's skin shifted again, this time to a reddish color. Maya guessed it meant anger. "You dare threaten the Vex Empire? We have conquered 17 worlds. We have crushed civilizations that had weapons you cannot imagine." "That's nice," Maya said. "But you've never fought humans before, have you?" The alien commander leaned forward in what Maya assumed was his command chair. "Your species is unknown to us, but this makes no difference. All species surrender when faced with superior force. It is the natural order." Maya smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Commander Thane, I think you're about to learn something new about the natural order." She turned to face her crew. Each face showed the same mixture of fear and determination that she felt in her own heart. They were scared, yes, but they were also ready to fight. It was written in their eyes, in the set of their shoulders, in the way they held their heads high despite the impossible odds. "Tom, open a channel to all human vessels in the system," she ordered. "Captain, there are no other human vessels in the system," Tom replied, confused. "There will be," Maya said confidently. "Send out an emergency beacon. Let every human ship within 100 light years know what's happening here." Commander Thane's image flickered with what might have been confusion. "You call for reinforcements that cannot arrive in time. This is pointless." "Maybe," Maya agreed, "but it's what humans do. We don't go quietly into the darkness. We make noise, we fight back, and we make sure everyone knows what happened here." She sat back down in her captain's chair and clasped her hands in her lap. "You have 1 minute to withdraw your ships and leave our space, Commander Thane. After that, we're going to show you why asking humans to surrender is the worst mistake you could possibly make." The alien commander's skin shifted through several colors before settling on something that looked almost purple. "You cannot be serious. Your ship is alone and outgunned." Maya's smile grew wider. Commander, you're about to learn the most important lesson in human history. We're never really alone, and we're definitely never outgunned. Not when we put our minds to it. The countdown began. The minute passed like an eternity. Captain Maya Rodriguez sat perfectly still in her command chair, watching Commander Thane's alien face on the view screen. The Vex commander's skin had shifted through several colors during their conversation, but now it seemed to settle on a deep red that reminded Maya of dried blood. Your time is up, human, Thane finally spoke. Since you refuse to surrender, you will be destroyed. This is your final warning. Maya stood up slowly and walked to the front of the bridge. Behind her, she could hear the quiet sounds of her crew preparing for what was about to happen. Blake Thompson was already at the engineering station, his fingers dancing over controls that were never meant to be used this way. Tom, are you recording this? Maya asked without turning around. Yes, Captain. Everything is being transmitted to the emergency beacon. Good. Maya faced the view screen again. Commander Thane, I want you to remember this moment. You're about to see what happens when humans get angry. She turned to her crew. Blake, give me everything the fusion drive has got. Jake, plot a direct course to their biggest ship. Tom, I want you to broadcast our position to every human vessel that might be listening. Captain? Jake's voice cracked slightly. Are you ordering a ramming course? That's exactly what I'm ordering, Lieutenant. Commander Thane's four eyes widened. Even through the alien translator, his shock was clear. You cannot be serious. You would destroy your own ship? Maya laughed, and the sound made several of her crew members smile despite their fear. Commander, you still don't understand. Humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure the other guy loses, even if it costs us everything. Fusion. Drive at maximum power, Captain, Blake reported. But I should warn you, running it this hard will probably cause a core breach. Even better, Maya said cheerfully. How big of an explosion are we talking about? Blake's grin was almost frightening. Big enough to take out anything within a kilometer radius. On the view screen, Commander Thane's skin shifted to a pale color that Maya had never seen before. This is madness. You would kill yourselves just to damage one of our ships? Damage? Maya raised an eyebrow. Commander, we're not trying to damage your ship. We're trying to turn it into space dust, along with ourselves, if necessary. The Terra's edge began to accelerate toward the massive Vex flagship. Maya could feel the vibration through the deck plates as the fusion drive pushed beyond its safety limits. Warning alarms started sounding throughout the ship, but nobody moved to shut them off. Captain, I'm detecting weapons charging on the alien ships, Jake reported. Let them shoot, Maya said calmly. Blake, can you overload our power grid? Already. Working on it, Captain. If I route all power through the main conduits at once, we'll have about 30 seconds before everything explodes. Perfect timing. Commander Thane's image flickered as his ship's weapons opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the human vessel. The Terra's edge shuddered under the impact, but Maya's crew didn't even flinch. Hull breach on. Deck 3, someone reported. Seal it off and keep going, Maya ordered. Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's scientist, looked up from her station with an expression of scientific curiosity. Captain, the alien's skin color is changing again. I've never seen anything like it. Maya glanced at the view screen. Commander Thane's red skin was indeed shifting, becoming lighter and lighter. Other Vex officers visible in the background were showing the same change. Interesting, Maya said. Tom, are you getting readings on their emotional state? Their bio readings are off the charts, Captain. Heart rate, brain activity, stress hormones, everything is spiking. Good. They're finally starting to understand. The distance between the ships closed rapidly. The Vex flagship loomed larger and larger on the view screen, its crystalline hull glowing with defensive energy fields. More weapons fire erupted from the alien fleet, but the Terra's edge kept coming. 20 seconds to impact, Jake announced. Blake, how's that power overload coming along? Ready when you are, Captain. I've also taken the liberty of turning our mining charges into improvised bombs. You beautiful genius, Maya said with genuine affection. Everyone else grab onto something solid. Commander Thane's voice came through the speakers, no longer controlled and threatening. Now it sounded desperate. "Stop this madness. We can negotiate." "Too late for negotiations, Commander," Maya replied. "You had your chance to run. 10 seconds to impact." Maya watched as the Vex flagship grew to fill the entire view screen. She could see details of its hull now, alien writing and strange symbols that probably meant something important to their civilization. In a few seconds, none of it would matter. Now Blake, Chief Engineer Blake Thompson, triggered every overload he had prepared. The Terra's Edge became a flying bomb, its fusion core destabilizing, its power grid cascading into failure, and its mining charges armed and ready. The impact, when it came, was nothing like the movies. There was no sound in space, but the shock wave traveled through both ships' hulls. Maya felt herself thrown against the bulkhead as the Terra's Edge buried itself deep into the side of the alien flagship. Emergency lighting flickered on as main power failed. Around the bridge, her crew picked themselves up and immediately went back to their stations. "Damage report," Maya called out, tasting blood from where she had bitten her tongue. "We're stuck in their hull about 50 meters deep," Jake reported. "Both ships are venting atmosphere. Their weapons are offline." "Excellent, Blake. Are we still alive?" "Barely, Captain. The fusion core is holding together by luck and prayer, but we've got maybe an hour before it goes critical." Maya smiled. "An hour is plenty of time. Tom, can you access their communication systems from here?" "Working on it, Captain. Their technology is strange, but I think I can establish a link." On the view screen, Commander Thane's image returned, but now the alien looked completely different. His skin had turned almost white, and his 4 eyes darted around frantically. "What have you done?" he whispered. "We've shown you what happens when you threaten humans," Maya said simply. "But this is just the beginning, Commander. Tom, send out that beacon now." "Beacon transmitted, Captain. Any human ships in the area will know exactly where we are and what happened." Commander Thane's white skin somehow became even paler. "You called for more of your kind?" Maya's smile was cold as space itself. "Commander, you wanted to see human nature. You're about to get a front row seat. Because the thing about humans is, we don't just fight for ourselves, we fight for each other. And when word gets out that aliens attacked a human ship," she let the sentence hang in the air like a threat. "Well, let's just say you're going to wish you had taken my advice and run while you still could." The fusion core of the Terra's Edge had 5 minutes left before it turned both ships into a small sun. Captain Maya Rodriguez sat in her damaged command chair, watching the chaos unfold around the Vex fleet with deep satisfaction. 23. Human ships now surrounded the 12 alien vessels. What should have been a simple conquest had become the worst nightmare in Vex military history. "Captain," Tom Martinez called out, "I'm picking up something interesting. The Vex are trying to broadcast a surrender signal." Maya raised an eyebrow. "After all this, now they want to surrender? It gets better," Tom grinned. "They're not surrendering to us. They're trying to surrender to the universe in general. Apparently, they think we might not be from this reality." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her instruments with scientific excitement. "Captain, their bioreadings are fascinating. I think several of them have gone into complete psychological shock. Their brain patterns look like they've encountered something their minds simply cannot process." On the view screen, Commander Thane appeared one final time. The Vex leader's skin was now completely transparent, and his 4 eyes moved randomly, as if he couldn't focus on anything for more than a second. "Human Captain," Thane whispered, his voice barely audible through the translator. We withdraw. We leave your space. Please stop." Maya stood up and smoothed down her torn uniform. Around her, the bridge crew continued their work, with the calm efficiency of people who had found their calling. "Commander Thane," Maya said gently, "you should have listened when I asked you to run." We did not know," Thane stammered. "In all our conquests, no species has no one has ever what, Commander? Ever refused to be afraid." Maya smiled. "That's because you never met humans before. Blake, how's that fusion core?" Chief Engineer Blake Thompson wiped grease from his hands and grinned. 2 minutes, Captain, but I've managed to rig the explosion to be directional. When it goes off, it'll push us away from their ship and hopefully just melt half their hull instead of vaporizing everything. Hopefully? Well, I've never done this before. Should be fun to find out what happens. Through the communication link, Maya could hear Vex officers screaming in their own language. The translator was struggling to keep up, but words like impossible, nightmare, and reality break came through clearly. Tom, patch me through to all human ships one more time. You're connected, Captain. Maya addressed her fellow humans, with pride. This is Captain Rodriguez. In about 90 seconds, our fusion core is going to explode. I want everyone to back off to a safe distance and observe what happens next. The responses came back immediately. Midnight Express pulling back. Thanks for the fireworks show, Captain. Deep Digger here. This has been the most fun we've had in years. Happy learning withdrawing. The children are taking notes for their science reports. Maya turned back to Commander Thane. You know what the really sad part is, Commander? We actually came out here in peace. All we wanted to do was explore, maybe make some friends, learn about the universe. Thane's transparent. Skin somehow became even more pale. Then why did you fight? Because you threatened us, Maya said simply. And humans don't respond well to threats. We're funny that way. Jake Miller called out from his station. 60 seconds, Captain. The Vex ships are trying to move away, but their engines seem to be damaged. That would be the virus I uploaded, Blake said cheerfully. I may have accidentally broken more than just their communications. Maya shook her head in amazement. Blake, remind me to recommend you for a promotion if we survive this. Already planning my next project, Captain. I'm thinking about what we could do with their shield technology. Dr. Park looked up from her readings. Captain, something remarkable is happening. The Vex crew members are starting to lose consciousness. I think their minds are simply shutting down rather than trying to process what they've experienced. 30 seconds, Jake announced. Maya faced the view screen one final time. Commander Thane was barely visible now, his skin so transparent he looked like a ghost. Commander, when you get home, if you get home, I want you to remember something. Humans didn't start this fight, but we sure as hell finished it. 10 seconds. Maya sat down and strapped herself in. Blake, light it up. The explosion, when it came, was beautiful in its own terrifying way. The fusion core of the Terra's Edge released all its contained energy in a directed blast that carved through space like a sword made of pure light. The Vex flagship shuddered under the impact, its crystalline hull cracking and melting under temperatures that rivaled the center of a star. But the ship survived, barely held together by alien engineering that was more advanced than anything humans had ever built. When the light faded, the Terra's Edge was gone, vaporized in its own explosion. But its crew had already evacuated too, the other human ships rescued by the miners and cargo haulers and tourist vessels that had come to help. The surviving Vex ships limped away from the battle zone, their crews traumatized beyond anything in their species' history. Of the 12 vessels that had arrived to conquer humanity, only 7 managed to restore enough engine power to attempt escape. Commander Thane's final transmission was barely coherent. Warning. Warning to all Vex forces, do not engage the human. They do not understand fear. The human fleet made no attempt to pursue the retreating aliens. They were too busy salvaging alien technology and comparing notes on the most effective improvised weapons. Captain Maya Rodriguez, now aboard the cargo hauler Midnight Express, filed her official report with the same calm tone she might use to describe a minor equipment malfunction. First contact with alien species established. Diplomatic relations attempted. Aliens expressed hostile intent. Standard human response initiated. Aliens chose to withdraw. No human casualties. Significant technological advancement achieved through battlefield salvage. Recommend continued exploration of the sector. 3 months later, on the Vex homeworld, the surviving officers presented their report to the High Command. For the first time in over 1,000 years of military conquest, the Vex Empire officially changed its expansion doctrine. Humans were classified as a reality hazard, a species so fundamentally dangerous that all normal rules of warfare simply did not Apply. Any Vex ship encountering humans was ordered to retreat immediately and warn all other vessels in the area. The final entry in the Vex military database read, Species designation, human. Threat level, absolute. Recommended action, immediate retreat. Note, when asked why they do not run, they respond by ensuring no one else can either. Dr. Park's scientific report became required reading at the Vex Military Academy. The humans appear to lack the basic survival instinct found in all other known species. They do not retreat when faced with superior force. They do not surrender when defeat is certain. They do not fear death when protecting their own. Conclusion: avoid at all costs. Meanwhile, humanity continued its peaceful exploration of the galaxy, completely unaware that they had just redefined interstellar warfare. They occasionally wondered why they kept finding abandoned alien outposts and why every new species they encountered immediately offered friendship treaties and tribute. Captain Maya Rodriguez, decorated for her handling of first contact, was given command of a new exploration vessel. Her final log entry on the subject read, Interesting discovery about alien psychology. Apparently, some species can literally be scared white. We should probably study this phenomenon more, assuming we ever meet any aliens brave enough to stick around for observation. The galaxy had learned a new lesson that day. Never threaten something that refuses to understand the concept of surrender. And somewhere in deep space, human children continued to turn their homework assignments into weapons, just in case. The space around the Terra's edge became crowded very quickly. Human ships of every size and type dropped out of hyperspace, each one broadcasting the same message. They were here to help. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched the tactical display with satisfaction as more and more friendly contacts appeared on her screens. What had started as a hopeless fight against impossible odds was rapidly becoming something else entirely. Tom, patch me through to the fleet, Maya ordered. You're connected. To all human vessels, Captain. Maya stood up, ignoring the sparks falling from damaged ceiling panels. This is Captain Rodriguez to all human ships. We have 12 hostile alien vessels. They started this fight by demanding our surrender. I think it's time we showed them what human hospitality really looks like. The responses came back immediately, and Maya had to smile at the enthusiasm in the voices. This is Captain Ross of the Midnight Express. We've dumped our cargo and filled our holds with scrap metal, ready to use it as ammunition. Deep Digger here. We've got mining explosives and drilling equipment. Where do you want us to start digging? Research vessel Starwalker reporting. We've got some experimental gravity weapons we've been wanting to test. Maya turned to the view screen where Commander Thane sat frozen in terror. The alien's skin was now so white it was almost invisible against his chair. Did you hear that, Commander? That's the sound of humans being helpful. Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her instruments with excitement. Captain, I'm detecting some fascinating behavior patterns. The arriving ships aren't just military or exploration vessels. I'm reading families, civilians, even what appears to be a school group. A school group? Maya raised an eyebrow. The transport Happy Learning is broadcasting an educational expedition. Manifest. Apparently they're on a field trip to study asteroid formation. Maya's grin grew wider. Tom, get me the Happy Learning. A new voice came over the speakers, clearly belonging to a teacher trying to maintain order. This is Ms. Anderson of the Happy Learning. We heard your distress call. The children are very excited to help. Through the communication link, Maya could hear young voices in the background, chattering excitedly about aliens and space battles. Commander Thane made a sound that the translator couldn't process, something between a whimper and a growl. Ms. Anderson, Maya said calmly, please keep your students safe. This could get dangerous. Oh, don't worry about that, Captain. Little Bobby here has been working on a science project about kinetic energy. He thinks the escape pods could be turned into guided missiles. The other children are helping him with the math. Maya heard several Vex officers gasp over the open channel. Through the view screen, she could see alien crew members pointing at their instruments and talking in panicked voices. Captain, Tom reported, I'm picking up transmissions from the Vex fleet. They're trying to contact their homeworld, but something's wrong with their long-range communications. Blake Thompson looked up from where he was connecting wires that probably shouldn't be connected. That would be the virus I uploaded during our ramming attack. I may have accidentally broken their hyperspace communication array. Maya stared at her chief engineer. Accidentally? Blake's innocent expression fooled no one. Well, I was trying to hack their weapon systems. The communication thing was just a bonus. So they can't call for help? Or retreat to hyperspace. They're stuck here with us. On the view screen, Commander Thane was now visibly shaking. His 4 eyes kept darting between different displays, each one probably showing him another human ship arriving, or another impossible thing happening. Commander, Maya said gently. Are you starting to understand why I asked you to run? Thane's voice came out as barely a whisper. Your children are making weapons? Oh, that's nothing, Maya said cheerfully. Tom, show him what the cargo ships are doing. The main screen split to show exterior views of the approaching human fleet. The cargo haulers were indeed dumping their loads, but they weren't just creating ammunition. They were building improvised structures in space, turning shipping containers into shield walls and cargo nets into traps. The mining ships are drilling holes in asteroids and filling them with explosives, Dr. Park reported with scientific fascination. They're turning the entire asteroid field into a minefield. And the research ships? Maya asked. They're conducting live experiments on pieces of Vex technology that broke off during our collision. Apparently, they've figured out how your shields work, and they're developing countermeasures. Commander Thane made that untranslatable sound, again louder this time. But the really interesting part, Dr. Park continued, is the family transport. They've launched their escape pods, but instead of fleeing, they're using them as reconnaissance drones. The parents are teaching their children how to pilot them remotely. Maya nodded approvingly. Tom, are you still monitoring Vex communications? Yes, Captain. They're not handling this very well. Give me specifics. Tom listened to his headset for a moment. One officer just asked if humans have a concept of self-preservation. Another wants to know if we understand that we can die. A third one is asking if maybe we're already dead and this is some kind of afterlife punishment. Maya laughed, and the sound made every Vex officer visible on the screen flinch simultaneously. Commander Thane, she said, walking closer to the view screen, let me explain something about humans. We don't have soldiers and civilians, we just have humans. And when you threaten one of us, you threaten all of us. As if to prove her point, a new voice came over the communications array. This is Captain Kim of the passenger liner Wandering Star. We've got 800 tourists on board who are very upset that their vacation got interrupted by aliens. They're asking if they can help with the fighting. 800 tourists? Commander Thane's voice cracked. Oh yes, Maya said happily. Humans travel everywhere, Commander. We're explorers by nature, and we really don't like being told what to do. The tactical display now showed over 20 human ships surrounding the Vex fleet. What had started as a 12-to-1 advantage for the aliens had become something much more complicated. Captain, Jake reported from his station, the Vex ships are moving into a defensive formation. It looks like they're trying to protect their flagship. Of course they are, Maya said. Tom, broadcast this message to all human ships. The aliens are scared and trying to hide. Let's show them there's nowhere to run. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Human ships began moving in coordinated patterns, not like a military formation, but like a pack of hunters who had found interesting prey. Commander Thane's image flickered as his ship's power systems struggled. This is madness, he whispered. Civilized species do not behave this way. Maya's smile was gentle but absolutely terrifying. Commander, I think you're beginning to understand the problem. Humans aren't civilized. We just pretend to be until someone gives us a reason not to be. She turned to her crew. Blake, how much time do we have left on that fusion core? 15 minutes, Captain. But I've been thinking, if we can get close to one more of their ships before it goes critical. Maya nodded. Do it. And everyone else, keep being creative. We're about to teach the Vex Empire the most important lesson in human history. Commander, Thane's four eyes went wide with something beyond terror. What lesson? Maya's answer was simple and chilling. Never corner something that refuses to die. The emergency lighting on the Terra's edge cast strange shadows across the damaged bridge. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched her crew work with quiet efficiency, turning their dying ship into something that would give the aliens nightmares for generations to come. Tom, how are those communication links coming along? Maya asked, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. I'm in, Captain. Their whole fleet is connected through some kind of neural network. I can hear everything they're saying to each other. Maya raised an eyebrow. And what are they saying? Tom's face went pale as he listened to his headset. They're terrified, Captain. I've never heard anything like this. They keep asking each other what's wrong with us. On the main view screen, Commander Thane appeared again. The Vex leader's skin had gone from its original blue to an almost translucent white. His four eyes kept darting around frantically, as if he expected humans to jump out of the shadows at any moment. Human, Captain, Thane said, his voice shaking through the translator. We must discuss terms. This behavior is not normal. Maya laughed, and the sound seemed to make the alien flinch. Normal? Commander, you haven't seen anything yet. Blake, how are those improvised weapons coming along? Chief Engineer Blake Thompson looked up from where he was welding something that definitely wasn't supposed to be welded. Oh, you're going to love this, Captain. Remember those mining charges I mentioned? Well, I've figured out how to turn our entire cargo bay into one giant bomb. How giant are we talking about? Blake's grin was absolutely terrifying. Let's just say it'll take out both our ships and probably damage a few more of theirs. Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her scientific instruments with excitement. Captain, I'm reading some fascinating data on the aliens' physiological responses. Their skin color changes appear to be involuntary stress reactions. Explain, Maya said, keeping one eye on Commander Thane's increasingly white face. Well, it seems like their skin reflects their emotional state. Red for anger, blue for calm, purple for determination, but this white color... Dr. Park paused, checking her readings again. I've never seen anything like it. It's as if their minds can't process what we're doing. Maya nodded thoughtfully. Tom, patch me through to their entire fleet. You're connected, Captain. Maya stood up and straightened her torn uniform. Around her, the bridge crew continued their work, humming quietly to themselves as they turned life support systems into weapons and converted emergency supplies into explosives. Attention, Vex Fleet, Maya announced calmly. This is Captain Rodriguez. I want all of you to listen very carefully to what happens next. She turned to her crew. Jake, what's our status on that fusion core? Lieutenant Jake Miller checked his readings. 43 minutes until it goes critical, Captain. But I've been thinking, if we vent the plasma directly through the hull breach, we could turn this whole ship into a giant flamethrower. Excellent idea. Make it happen. Through the speakers, Maya could hear panicked voices from the Vex ships. The universal translator was working overtime, turning alien words into human language, but the fear in those voices needed no translation. They're losing all color, Dr. Park reported with scientific fascination. Every single one of them. It's spreading through their entire fleet. Maya walked closer to the view screen where Commander Thane sat frozen in what appeared to be shock. His skin was now so white it was almost transparent. Commander, are you still with us? Maya asked pleasantly. Thane's voice came out as barely a whisper. What? What are you? We're humans, Maya said simply. This is what we do when people threaten us. Tom, are you picking up any interesting conversations? Tom nodded, his face grim. One of their officers just asked if humans feel pain. Another one wants to know if we understand the concept of death. And what did they conclude? They think we might be some kind of machines designed for war. Maya laughed again, and this time she heard several Vex officers gasp over the communication link. Machines? Oh, Commander Thane, we're much worse than machines. Machines follow programming. Humans aren't that we improvise. As if to prove her point, Blake Thompson called out from across the bridge. Captain, I've just figured out how to turn our water recycling system into a high-pressure cutting tool. Give me 10 more minutes and I can slice through their hull like butter. Do it, Maya ordered. Then she addressed the alien fleet again. You know what the really scary part is, Commander? We're not even soldiers. Blake over there? He's an engineer who likes to build things. Jake is a navigator who's never been in a fight in his life. Dr. Park studies alien bacteria for fun. She gestured around the bridge. These are just ordinary humans, Commander. Imagine what our actual military could do to you. Through the communication link, Maya could hear Vex officers talking frantically among themselves. Their voices were getting higher and more panicked by the minute. Captain, Tom said urgently. I'm picking up something else. Long-range sensors show multiple ships approaching our position. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Human ships? Unknown, but they're not using Vex technology. Maya's smile could have powered a small city. Tom, broadcast this message on all frequencies. Human vessel Terra's Edge to approaching ships. We are engaged with hostile aliens. Repeat, we are under attack by aliens. Within minutes, voices began responding over the radio. Human voices, speaking with different accents and languages, but all saying essentially the same thing. This is Captain Ross of the cargo hauler Midnight Express. We're 15 minutes out and ready to help. Mining vessel Deep Digger here, what do you need us to do? Research ship Starwalker responding. We've got some experimental equipment that might be useful. Maya counted 12 different ships checking in, each one bringing their own unique capabilities to the fight. And more importantly, each one crewed by humans who had heard the call and come running. Commander Thane's image flickered as his ship's systems struggled to cope with the damage. His white skin seemed to become even more translucent, if that was possible. This is impossible, he whispered. Your species cannot be this crazy? Maya suggested helpfully. Stubborn? Violent? Commander, you ain't seen nothing yet. The first human ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Then another. Then 3 more at once. Dr. Park looked up from her instruments with amazement. Captain, the Vex fleet's bio readings are completely off the charts now. I think some of them might be going into shock. Maya nodded. Good. Maybe now they'll understand why I asked them to run. She faced the view screen one final time. Last chance, Commander Thane. Order your fleet to withdraw, or find out what happens. When humans really get creative. Commander Thane's 4 eyes were wide with something that looked like pure terror. Around him, his bridge crew had gone completely silent, their skin as white as fresh snow. Thane's voice broke. We do not understand your species. Maya's smile was gentle but absolutely terrifying. That's okay, Commander, you're about to get a very thorough education.